Question number 7. Order. Question number 7. Order. Order. Grant Robertson, question number 7.
Does he stand by his reported statement that the slowdown in growth this year had come at the right time in the electoral cycle?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, yes, I don't know if I actually used the word slowdown. I think I said because the economy is a bit softer. But that was alongside statements to the effect that we don't want to be a political party that, as soon as it sees any market or global turbulence, starts talking about spending more, borrowing more, regulating everything and keeping foreigners out, which is what the Labor Party have done in the last month.
Order. Supplementary question. Grant Robertson.
In light of that answer, is he concerned that there are still 146,000 people out of work, 11,000 more than at the time of last year's election, or is that okay for those New Zealanders to be doing it tough because it's at the right time in the electoral cycle?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I'm not sure what the member's referring to. Unemployment. The number of people on benefits continues to drop. Today there are 42,000 fewer New Zealand children in a benefit household than there were 3 years ago. And the government's social investment approach to welfare is increasingly recognised in other developed countries as very progressive, if not revolutionary.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Is he concerned that at least $13 billion will be absent from regional New Zealand over 2 years as a result of plummeting dairy prices, or are the job losses and hard times that go with that just fine in his book as long as it happens at the right time in the electoral cycle?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, I am concerned about that, and having for a number of years represented an area that has become an intensive area, a dairying area, I know quite a bit about the impact that loss in dairy income will have. But surely the member's not going to suggest that dairy prices ought to stay low for the next 3 years so that he can get re-elected.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.
Order. 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 Now, the level of interjection now coming from my right-hand side means I will not hesitate to deal with somebody very severely on this side if I need to. Supplementary question.
Mr Speaker. Is he concerned that the proportion of workers who received a pay increase over the past year is the lowest for 5 years, or is that just fine so long as it happens at the right time in the electoral cycle to suit his party's electoral prospects?
The Honourable Bill English.
Speaker, I think that demonstrates the member has a bit of homework to do. Real wage increases have continued. In the last year, in fact, inflation was 0. Oil prices dropped, yielding spare cash for families for further consumption or saving. There's no evidence that wage growth is way out of proportion with where it's been over recent years. Wages continue to rise and will continue to do so, despite that member trying to say that the economy is going down the toilet.
Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
When will he apologise to New Zealanders for his out-of-touch, cynical and selfish comments to the National Party conference in the weekend, or is he just more worried about his party's electoral prospects than how New Zealanders do?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, the cynic in me would say would be when that member's out-of-touch, cynical and selfish undermining of the Labor leadership stops.
Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question. Order. Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Given that he has acknowledged that he did make comments in the weekend that the slowdown or the softening of the New Zealand economy was happening at the right time in the electoral cycle, when will he start governing in the national interests and not in the interests of national?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, unfortunately the government doesn't have sufficient influence to determine when or how economic slowdowns occur. I know that member believes that's the case, but actually the fundamental job in New Zealand is to ensure this economy is resilient to precisely these slowdowns, and I think the government has built up a track record where its policy has supported that resilience and built the confidence of New Zealanders and their ability to deal with economic adversity, and we're proud to stand by that track record.
Question number 8, David Clendon.
Tēnā koe, Mr